What's up, y'all? It's Will with Take That News here. Today we are reacting to Do Democrats and Republicans Agree Economically Surrounded, featuring Cenk Uygur. Alright, this video just dropped not too long ago. It's my first time watching it, so let's go ahead and jump into it.
We've tried establishment Democrats, complete failures. We've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. We tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failures. I disagree. So the only thing we haven't tried is left-wing populism. You say, don't try it. Go back to the establishment Democrats. Are you crazy?
You can't vote Democrat and then say that, well, because they still support the rich and the rich didn't get all the tax cuts, I'm still going to cast my vote, which is the most powerful political weapon you have, to the very establishment that you're on one hand trying to tear down.
That's just weird to mention guardrails against firing people when you rejected a union at your company and fired somebody for organizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. You can say that if you like.
That is true. Look it up.
Fine. So since you smeared me, let's explain. Hi, I'm Cenk Uygur. I'm host of the Young Turks, live weekdays, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. I'm also the head of the TYT Network. I'm also founder of Just Democrats, Wolfpack, and Rebellion Pack, where we're trying to bring the country together. And here I am surrounded by 20 Democrats and Republicans, and I'm going to try to bring them together.
Just for a little context, Cenk Uygur, he's the owner of the Young Turks, as he just stated. The Young Turks was actually the first real news media organization that I ever followed. Obviously, you know, CNN's been around, Fox News, all of those. But I as a kid, I didn't really care about all that stuff. I didn't watch those channels. Maybe it was something about my generation growing up. We just were not really indoctrinated into the network kind of idea that you got everything from TV, you know? That wasn't our culture. It was more internet. So growing up, probably around the Obama era was when I first started seeing Cenk's content on YouTube. The Young Turks, Anna Asparian was one of the early members, and I remember agreeing with a lot of the stuff that they said back in those days. You know, I don't remember exactly what all it was at the time, but I liked their content. I think I followed them and everything. Eventually, though, I did come to feel like their content was a bit too ridiculous. A lot of stuff they were saying I didn't agree with, and I stopped following them. And I guess as a result, naturally, I kind of started to follow more either red pill or Republican kind of commentators, different commentators from both sides, of course, you know, but it was never a network thing. I always followed independent media channels. So, all right, let's continue.
Claim number one is that Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues and try to divide us and distract us with culture wars.
All right, Cenk. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
My name's Oliver.
Hey, Oliver.
Yeah, so I guess the first place I want to start off with your claim is to first say that I think there's a grain of truth in it, and I think I would largely agree that when it comes to the system of neoliberalism, the system of capitalism, I think there can be a lot of overlap. I think where I would probably push back a little bit is when we look specifically at what policy issues get passed and how they affect people, there seems to be a very big difference. So for example, under the Biden administration, we saw with the expansion of the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid, we saw over 8 million people become eligible for Medicaid who were previously not eligible. If we contrast that right now with what's in Trump's big beautiful bill, over a 10-year period, that would make between 15 and 16 million people ineligible for Medicaid. So it seems a crucial economic issue that affects people's ability to, survive, have quality health care, and live quality lives. There seems to be a stark contrast. So I'm just wondering, your thoughts on that.
So where I would disagree is the word stark. So I understand there is a contrast. That's why I vote Democrat. Mm-hmm. But there's some giant buts here. So first of all, they say on Medicare, we should negotiate drug prices. The Democrats say, and then they never deliver. They didn't even try to negotiate drug prices other than on insulin and maybe 10 other drugs. And you go, well, that's pretty good. No, that's 10 drugs out of tens of thousands of drugs. At a maximum, it's only a $6 billion savings, when in reality, what we actually would do if we negotiated the drug prices is several $100 billion in savings. So what I'm saying to you is, while the Democrats do some things that are positive, they do it almost as a release valve. So they go, okay, here's another example that you mentioned, the Affordable Care Act. You know what it was called before it was called Obamacare?
You can enlighten me.
Yeah.
The Romney was a plan that was tried in a Republican state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was called Romneycare.
Yeah.
And you know who came up with it? The Heritage Foundation. The same people who came up with Project 2025.
Okay.
That is a corporate release valve so that people don't build up too much pressure and go to a rebellion or a revolution. But the bottom line is that was a tiny, tiny little fix thought up by a right-wing think tank. And then now when you say to negotiate drug prices, Obama never did it, even though he ran an ad called Billy where he said he was going to do it. Biden does at most 6% of it. The Democrats are constantly doing 5 to 10% as a little release valve, but keep the machine going exactly as it is.
And we can totally agree that there shouldn't be more that's done. I guess maybe I was taking your claim too literally, which is that Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues. And maybe you qualify in there. Is it largely agree? Is it mainly agree?
No, it's definitely large. Yeah,
okay.
It's not 100% agree, otherwise it would be too obvious.
Sure.
But is it true that they largely agree? Of course. So I'll give you many other examples.
Okay.
Paid family leaves at 84%. Yet the Democrats never seem to be able to pass it. Why do they never pass it? Because they're not trying. They said they do the public option. Joe Biden didn't even announce it, introduce the public option. Why? Because they agree with Republicans.
Well, I don't think they agree with Republicans necessarily. I just think that sometimes it's hard to pass legislation in a bitterly divided Congress. Would you acknowledge that it's difficult very often in order to get things done? You don't.
No, and that's the number one excuse Democrats use. Oh, golly gee, there was nothing we could do. And they sing, there was nothing we could do, there was nothing we could do. Okay. In reality, he didn't even try for the public option, Biden. He didn't introduce it. So that polls at over 70%. Why not try? Sure. $15 minimum wage. The Republicans didn't take that out of the bill. Joe Biden took it out of the bill. You see those things where you can tell intent. And the intent is he actually agrees with the donor class and the Republicans. He doesn't want those things. If you can't pass a bill at 84%, then are you saying the Democrats are the most incompetent politicians in history?
I'm not saying they're the most incompetent party, and I'm also not saying they're perfect. I think that we risk running into an issue where we equate the two parties as being virtually the same, which leads people to not voting whatsoever at all, because they think the whole class is against them. And I'm in complete agreement with you that the two-party system is fundamentally broken, and that Democrats in a lot of ways have a lot of the same issues. I guess what I predominantly have an issue with is those who maybe don't take the time to have nuance in the discussion and just say, oh, they agree on economic issues and they only want to divide us on cultural issues.
Brother, so here's the difference.
It's important to make that, because otherwise people stay home. They don't vote, and then we're in the situation that we're in right now when a lot of people don't end up voting.
No, but Oliver, so let me tell you my perspective on it. That's really important.
Okay.
So Democrats always say, hey, look, there's a 5 to 10% difference, so you should vote for us.
Okay.
But they don't quite say it that way. You understand that. I understand that. A lot of people here understand that.
Marketing is a thing.
Right. But hold on. This is super important.
Okay.
But they tell the voters, we're going to make a big difference. We're going to do minimum wage. We're going to do public option. We're going to do big family leave.
Yes.
And when they don't, people get disappointed. And that leads them to not voting. That leads them to hating the Democratic Party.
Sure.
What I'm saying is go with populist left. That is the one thing that has not been tried.
Sure.
We would actually do the bills. We do the bills. Otherwise, then you're the same as the Republicans.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oliver.
I'm not gonna lie. I am kind of just like confused about what he was trying to say in that argument. I have no idea what he was trying to get at, because from what I understand, Cenk is Democrat. Now he's saying, do the Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues but try to divide us with culture wars? That statement in itself is actually enlightening, because I never looked at it in that way. If he's saying that they're both doing the same things, their strategy is just to get us to be in conflict with each other versus kind of seeing the bigger picture, that is very enlightening. That's a very intriguing point of view. Though I don't know whose side he's necessarily saying he's on. I think he was saying that if they just actually pass the laws, then things will change, right? But it just seems like such a simple solution to such a complex issue, in my opinion. That's the only takeaway I have from that. Like, how are you going to tell me that just by... But obviously there's a reason they're not passing the laws, right? If it's all about them keeping us divided so they can, I guess, essentially pass what is in the interest of the people who are actually in the know, then yeah, I definitely can see how that's an issue. But then that means that the responsibility would be on us, the normal people in the world who are working every day, 40 hours a week. We don't have time to go and really study these people that we're putting in power and really understand that whole game. It's not taught to us in schools, you know what I mean? So that's an issue that it's wow. I just don't know what he's saying. That's the issue. But I think I have an understanding. So let's continue into it. I hope I got that point down. I'm going to clip this down because I'm kind of breaking up a little bit, but I definitely, I don't know. But let me know if you agree. Let's continue the bit.
Hey, Cenk. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Great to speak with you. I agree with your overall term here. I would say that at the end goal, they agree that economically, we all want the same things, right? But the way we get it is two completely different economical viewpoints. We have the left that tends to be more socialist and communist, then we have the right that is more crony capitalist.
Okay.
The left wants to take your taxes and they want to distribute it the way they want.
Yeah.
The right wants you to keep your taxes right now. They want you to keep your overtime taxes. They want you to keep your taxes on tips. So
Yeah.
what is your...
Yeah. So first of all, brother, you got to stop saying socialism and communism.
Why is that?
Because none of the Democratic politicians are in favor of that. They're actually...
They are. Bernie's quite literally socialist.
No. So he says he's a democratic socialist. Even he doesn't really go towards what you would consider socialism, because you're putting socialism and communism in the same bucket where they don't belong. None of them are in favor of ending corporations, ending capital, etc. In fact, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, their number one problem is that they're corporatists, not that they're socialists or communists.
No,
I gotta stop him there because, man, he's spitting right now, though. I'm not gonna lie. He's smart. He's spitting. It is true. It is definitely true that I don't think anyone is really for, and the either on the Democratic side or on the Republican side is really for that level of extremism when it comes to how the country is ran. Socialism definitely sounds extreme in words, but yeah. I mean, the issue, I'll be honest, the issue is that I can only explain what I know through my understanding. I don't have the deepest understanding of all of these subjects. So I understand socialism, right? If I go ahead and I look up socialism refers to a political economic theory or system in which means of production, of distribution, and exchange, like factories, land, and capital, are owned and regulated collectively, often by the state or by the people as a whole. The goal of socialism is to reduce and eliminate economic inequality by reducing wealth and ensuring that everyone has access to basic needs in healthcare, education, and housing, right? Which is a great concept because housing, healthcare, education, those things, in my opinion, it would be great if they were free. Should they be free, though? That's hard to say. I don't think they should be free, because if they're free, then you are basically kind of just sharing your resources with everybody, regardless of their accomplishment, regardless of their ability to acquire more resources. I don't know, it seems like a system that in theory seems fair, but is not going to provide the most fair results. And then there's always going to be abusers. That's the thing about democracy, is there's so many checks and balances, even though there's often cracks in those checks and balances. There's a lot of them. But I think those checks and balances at least keep total chaos from happening, because I know at least like in places like Cuba, where socialism was the culture, the results of that, and I don't know, it's livable. You will live in these societies, but is that what America should be, is the question.
literally wanted to
they will
end.
do whatever corporate donors tell them to do.
They wanted to
That is
end
exact
businesses over
opposite of
vaccine
communism.
mandates.
Yeah,
That was-
no, brother.
Yeah, no.
But that's drug companies. They're doing the exact opposite of communism. They're saying corporate donors will do whatever you corporations want. So when you turn to the Republicans, it's the same thing as Oliver. They have a 5-10% release valve with Donald Trump now. He's pretending to be a populist. So he goes, oh my God.
Donald Trump isn't
Even
pretending,
though,
he is a populist.
well, look at
He
the
just
thing.
won the popular vote, both left and right.
No,
moved in his direction.
hold on. So when you talk about that bill, the budget bill, that is not big or beautiful. Well, it is big, but it's definitely not beautiful.
Sure.
The majority of the tax cuts go, of course, as always, to the rich, right? But they put in a tiny release valve of, we'll help the middle class a little bit on tips and overtime. Whether that even stays in the bill is a different question.
How come
But
every time
what
a
are they doing?
Republican's
Here,
in
let me tell you a
office,
fact.
I make more
Okay,
money
I'll
and I
tell you a
spend less
fact.
in taxes?
Yeah, no, I'll tell you a fact. So what they do is they throw a little morsel at you, as Obama and Biden throw a little morsel on you for social policies, as
Sure.
we discussed earlier. But the overwhelming majority always goes to the rich. For example, in this bill, they're cutting Medicaid and SNAP by $1.1 trillion. Do you know how much is going to people making above $500,000 a year in tax cuts? $1.1 trillion. Okay, so they're literally taking from the poorest people and giving it to the richest people.
Which is what the liberals have been doing forever. So what's the difference?
How are they doing? So no, brother, what I'm saying is you're actually proving my point. Democrats and Republicans constantly say that they have giant differences. Then what did the Republicans do? They do massive tax cuts for the rich, and then Obama, by the way, came in and actually made Bush's tax cuts permanent, which cost us even more than the original Bush tax cuts did. So there's a lot of theater about how they disagree, but at the end of the day, the rich always get tax cuts.
Save
Corporations
more money
always
when
get
Republicans are in office. Why do we as a business owner continue to save money?
So you know why? So I'm a small business owner. So we save a little bit of money. The giant corporations save a ton of money.
Isn't it better if everybody saves money?
No, it's not.
Why not? That makes no sense.
No, brother, it's easy to say, okay, then we shouldn't have any roads, bridges, cops, fire departments,
Nobody's
schools.
saying that. We
No,
just don't
you
want
are
our money
saying that
going
when
to
you say there's we shouldn't have any
We just don't
taxes.
want our money going to foreign countries.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
On drag events.
And by the way, that's another thing that proves my point. Republicans and Democrats always do whatever AIPAC tells them. So that is a form of
that's
government.
a whole different argument.
No, it's not an
I
argument. It's the
agree,
same
so-
argument. It's the donor class.
Thank you, Cenk.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So when you talk about this concept of like a release valve, it seems like you're downplaying very relevant and very important differences that exist between the parties. So the Affordable Care Act, you understand that it expanded coverage to like millions of people. More people got Medicaid, premiums are subsidized. Like, this is good policy. And I agree with you. Sometimes, in many cases, Democrats lack a spine. They don't push hard enough. But I think chalking that up to like, they're pretty much the same. There's just a little release valve difference is a little bit reductive.
Yeah, it's not at all reductive, and the Affordable Care Act is a perfect example of it. So you're right, it was better than the previous system because the previous system had pre-existing conditions, and you can get blocked for that, and the American people despise that. So it needed to be changed. That is part of the reason why a right-wing think tank, Heritage Foundation, came up with Romneycare. It's a release valve, and it's a Republican idea. Then Mitt Romney took it and passed it in Massachusetts. That's why it's called Romneycare. Then Obama and Romney ran a campaign where they pretended to be on exact opposite ends of the spectrum with the same exact healthcare plan. Literally the same exact healthcare plan.
Do you think the ACA is...
That is what? Are you kidding me? I have to fact check this shit. I have to fact check this shit because it's no way that you're telling me right now, Cenk, that the Republicans, are fucking, what are they? They're just in cahoots with the Democrats. Doing the same shit. Now he's starting to sound a bit wacky right now. I'm not gonna lie. Because that's very conspiracy theorist. Like, now I get what he's saying. This sounds like a conspiracy theory. I actually need to rewind this. I need to rewind it because I need to fact check what he's saying right now in order for this to make sense.
Then Mitt Romney took it and passed it in Massachusetts. That's why it's called Romneycare. Then Obama and Romney ran a campaign where they pretended to be on exact opposite ends of the spectrum with the same exact healthcare plan. Literally the same exact healthcare plan.
Do you think the ACA is like a right-wing health insurance plan?
It was literally created by a right-wing
Like
think
the
tank, Heritage
Republicans right
Foundation.
now in Congress are trying to push a reconciliation bill that literally guts Medicaid when the ACA expanded Medicaid.
Yes. So they always move the goalposts. So what do? They bring in, okay, here's our release valve. Okay, now the American people are still mad. Of course they are, because, and look here, let's talk about the next steps that happened. Obama said, oh yeah, we might do the public option, which would have been not universal health care, but a good step forward.
Right.
I was there, Young Turk's been around forever, and I was like, yes, you got to do the public option. Then Obama says publicly, oh, I guess we can't do the public option, wink,
Well,
and they
that's
immediately
because
took
of
it out of the
Joe
bill.
Lieberman, right?
What's that?
That's because of Joe Lieberman, right? But
No,
59,
no,
59 other Democrats would have voted for the
Okay,
public
see,
option.
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, hold on. I do need to fact check this though. So, damn. So, I want to share my screen. Let's do this. I'm gonna chat GBT it, y'all. I'm gonna chat GBT it. Let me fucking chat GBT it. Yep. Let me fucking chat GBT it. Oh man. Alright. Can you define the similarities in the Romneycare? Can you define for me the similarities in the Romneycare and Affordable Care Act? Let's see. Yes, Romneycare, Massachusetts health reform law passed in 2006 under Governor Mitt Romney. The Affordable Care Act, ACA, also known as Obamacare, federal law signed by President Obama in 2010, share several core similarities because the ACA was heavily influenced by the Massachusetts model. Here are the similarities. Individual mandate, Romneycare, required all Massachusetts residents to have health insurance or face penalty. Okay, initially required all Americans to have health insurance or pay a penalty. The mandate was later removed federally in 2019. Health insurance exchanges, created by the Massachusetts Health Connector, a state-run marketplace where people could shop for insurance plans, created a federal and state-run act, health insurance marketplace for individuals and small businesses to compare and purchase covering. So, let's see, required all Massachusetts residents to have health insurance or face penalty, and then required all Americans. Wow. So that's very close, very similar. Created the Massachusetts Health Connector, a state-run marketplace where people could shop for insurance plans. Created a federal state-run insurance marketplace for individuals and small businesses to compare purchasing coverage. Wow. Okay, I mean that's similar. But it's like, it seems more structurally similar, not necessarily based off the entire plan being completely modeled off of one. So let's read more. Subsidies to help pay for insurance. Offered state subsidies to help low and moderate income residents afford coverage. Provides federal subsidies, premium tax credits, and cost sharing reductions to individuals earning between 100 and 400% of the federal poverty level. So, damn, 100 to 400% below the poverty level is low to moderate income? Okay, so I guess that's similar. Expanded Medicaid eligibility to cover more low-income residents, particularly childless adults. Explained Medicaid to cover all individuals up to 130% federal poverty level. Medicaid eligibility to cover more low-income residents, particularly childless adults. Yeah, I mean, that is very similar. And I'll tell you, based off what they're saying in the Romneycare Act, or the Romneycare for Massachusetts, I mean, this is good stuff. You can't, hate on it. Required employers with 11 or more full-time employees to offer insurance and pay a fee. Okay. Requires large employees, 50 plus full-time workers to provide affordable insurance or pay a penalty. All right, yeah, these both have a lot of similarities. Both laws prohibit denial of coverage based on the pre-existing conditions, mandate coverage of essential health benefits, cap out-of-pocket expenses, eliminate annual and lifetime coverage limits. Okay, yeah, a lot of similarities. Both aim to increase percentage insured individuals by combining mandates and marketplace subsidies. Yeah, from the looks of it, they say Romneycare can be seen as a blueprint or prototype for the ACA. President Obama and his advisors study at the Massachusetts model. So, wow. Okay, I thought Cenk was a conspiracy theorist for a second there, but clearly there is some logic behind what he is talking about. Let's continue. Let me hear what the other guy's argument is. The thing that's a little confusing, I don't know if you guys are confused too, but I don't know what side the other person is on, whether they're Democrat or Republican. I guess from the context of what they're saying, you can kind of make a conclusion, but I'm kind of trying to, a lot of these arguments, I'm trying to understand them in my head, so I'm not really paying as much attention to what the other guy's saying, but let's continue.
So that they always have an excuse. So right now, under Biden, the excuse was, we don't have enough senators. Oh, golly, geez, hold on. The filibuster, the parliamentarian. And then under Obama, they had 60. They could pass anything they wanted. They're like, let's take a really, really long time with Romneycare. Oh, oops, we ran out of our 60. Things changed. Okay, now the Republicans are ignoring the parliamentarian when they're trying to pass this bill. So the Democrats keep finding excuses. Why did they take the public option out of the bill?
You think
why did they never introduce the public option back again? I don't think the Democrats want the public option at all.
When 59 senators said, we'll vote yes on this, and Lieberman
That's what I'm trying to tell you, brother. They don't mean it. So let me give you two examples.
Where are you getting that from?
Where am I getting it from?
If
Joe,
Lieberman
where am I
agreed,
getting it from? Number one, the public option polls at over 70%. They didn't even try to pass it.
But
Number two, when Biden came into office, said he was going to do public option, and then he lied, and he never once introduced
Biden had
it.
no political capital compared to Obama.
Oh, now they don't have political capital. Golly gee, constant excuses for, oh my God, I can't. The voters are sick of I can't.
It's not
Why don't you actually try?
It's more
so
difficult.
tell me why they're such losers. They can't pass paid family leave at 84%. Are they losers, or do they actually secretly agree with the Republicans and they don't want any of this because they're corporate donors?
I agree with you on policy. I want paid family leave. I want single payer health care. But this is not super easy to pass. You're like, if they just all hold their hands and
I can get it passed in 2 weeks.
We're going to get
2 weeks. Okay, so here's how you do it. Guys, you see, you've been taught by mainstream media and Democratic politicians to accept failure. Oh my God, there's nothing we can do to pass it. There's nothing. Here's how what you do. Here's super easy. Listen. Paid family leave is at 84. Why do I keep insisting on that? Because here's what you would do. You would introduce it, 74% of Republican voters want it. And then you would say, I dare you to vote against it. If you vote against it, you're voting against 84% of Americans, and you will lose your next election. I will campaign against you. I will find a Republican to campaign against you. No. And then, but you say, no, God, don't even try. Don't even try. Oh, we have these giant differences, but we never pass our bills. We never even try. And who took out $15 minimum wage? Joe Biden took out $15 minimum wage. So they never meet it, brother. When is it going to get through to you that they don't pass it for a reason?
Damn, Joe Biden took out $15 minimum wage? Man, during the height of inflation? That's crazy. I remember people was struggling under Biden. I remember everybody was struggling. But, the economy, you can say people are struggling now too. So it is a continuing of cycles. I do agree with Cenk a bit more on this point. And the thing with these Jubilee shows is it seems like there is no swaying, right? It's just argument after argument. Look, this is what I believe, and you cannot tell me different. I am not here to listen to your argument. I'm here to argue my point, and it's just two people arguing. Like, can we come to an agreement? Some in some cases, people are more understanding, but most of the people that come on Jubilee are just like, it's just emotional arguments. But I'm not really listening to what this guy's saying, so let me pay more attention to what he's trying to say.
Republicans agree with us. They agree nominally. I'll give you a great example of this. If you poll Republicans, should we cut Medicaid? They say no. When Medicaid's actually cut and you poll them, they're just cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. So like nominally, yes, everyone agrees universal health care is good. When you get into the nitty-gritty of actual policy, it gets a lot more complicated. I agree, Democrats should fight much harder, use the bully pulpit, campaign on these issues. But the idea that they're willfully, purposefully sabotaging themselves, some of them sure, but this is not as easy as you're painting it out to be.
Okay, so number one.
Okay, some of them who? You can't say some of them sure and not give context to that, because now you're agreeing with him, but you're saying for the most part they're not trying to push, purposely do these things, which, I can understand. Like, I would want to believe that everyone in power is not all on the same game. I think everybody would want to believe that there's actually people in power that are looking out for the best interest of the individuals. So, but, reality often is a lot harsher than we understand.
On minimum wage, we at the Young Turks fought for Bernie to put it back in and at least get a vote. Okay, it got a vote. And guess what happened? The 8 Democratic senators who were pretending to be in favor of it all of a sudden voted with the Republicans. They had more than enough to block it because the Democrats don't mean it. They always do rotating villains. So, brother, at what point are you going to say the failure is on purpose and not, golly gee, they're the Washington Generals against the Harlem Globetrotters?
When you have slim majorities, paradigm-shifting policies just harder to pass.
But 60 is not a slim majority. You constantly make excuses.
The
Obama had 60
minimum
and he
wage.
still didn't do it. If they could have 80 and you still find an excuse.
ACA was massive legislation that he got with 60.
Yes, beautiful Romneycare from Heritage Foundation.
Now, based off of the lack of flags, I think a lot of people in the crowd agree, just based off the context. Because typically when they don't agree or the argument is just like stupid, their flags are raised. So I think this is kind of agreeable.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you, man.
Glad they got him off, though. I don't know what he was saying.
How are you?
Hey there.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So you raised a very interesting point when you said that Democrats and Republicans agree essentially on the same issues and that they want to distract us with culture wars. The question that I would raise is why are culture wars a distraction when they are such a vital issue? It's important to myself as a conservative, and I'm quite certain to every Democrat in this room, issues like abortion, social justice, or things that affect us in ways that maybe some policies only benefit the rich. Why should we not focus on things that benefit Americans every day and that can affect women's bodies or gay people's right to get married or maintain the right?
Yeah. So I'm not saying that social issues are not.
Let me just keep my thoughts to myself on this one.
Not important. That's why I vote Democrat instead of Republican, because I believe women should have the right to an abortion and many of the other things that are on the left. Okay, but at the same time, when you talk about trans sports, for example, do you know how many trans athletes there are in the NCAA's?
No, I don't.
10 out of 500,000 athletes.
Okay.
So for 10 people, we had this giant debate, and the far right were like, no, that's it. This is what the Democratic Party is all about, and the far left was like, yes, that is all we're about, and this is about vulnerable communities, and you have to protect them. So this is the hill we're going to die on, and we're going to talk about this nonstop, okay? But meanwhile, we're getting robbed every single administration. Trillions of dollars in tax cuts under Republicans and under Obama. Tax cut after tax cut for rich, for the corporations, deregulation after deregulation. You know why they want to split us? They want you to fight left and right. They want you to look left and right. They don't want you to look up. Look up. Okay?
Well, of course, having to look up is very vital, okay? My master always tells us to look up. That's why I wear the cross. But the point that I'm making is that social issues, in order to really, wouldn't it make sense to effectively mobilize people, you should start with things that can touch them every single day. Social issues impact children, women, men, all of us across all ages and across all ideologies. Shouldn't it be, for the American population whose average attention span is maybe 43 to 56 seconds at best, to influence them politically, would it be best to start with something like a social issue that would then raise their awareness to issues dealing with the...
All right, now I'm gonna have to agree with the guy in the suit. I think social issues are important. I think social issues are important because they do impact the individual, and I think that is why they're so popular, because one form of at least moving things as a society is by being able to focus on issues that affect the masses versus the individual. Now, obviously, economic issues affect everybody. So economic issues are very important, but a lot of economic issues do fall under the line of social issues when you break it down. And I think that I think there's pros and cons to using social issues as a force to actually drive in supporters for either party. But I think it is important that social issues are brought up because they are very important to both sides. And that's the thing where both sides have very strong different opinions on the social issues that do affect them. And that is why it's such a powerful tactic to actually convince, people to vote for you. So the thing is, I think it's not as simple a solution as Cenk is trying to break it down to. But what do you guys think?
The rich and issues dealing with taxes, why not?
Because that splits us. It splits us on purpose. Those don't unify. I say the exact opposite. Why don't you start on bills we all agree on that have over 70% popularity, like getting money out of politics, anti-war, lowering drug prices through Medicare. Instead, you get to social issues. Here, I'm from a vulnerable community. I'm from a Muslim background.
Okay, just to stop it there. Based off of what he's saying, yeah, I can agree to that too, that these are other important issues, but he's saying that over 70% of people agree with these issues. Okay, sure, but are these issues as important to them in accordance to their lifestyle and how they live on a day-to-day basis than the issues that are more socially kind of triggering, Though it's like I'm kind of like this particular issue, this particular argument, I am kind of like against the fence with this one because I do feel personally that a lot of the social issues that we focus on is a distraction because me personally, in my experience, they don't affect me as much. But I know it's a lot of people that it does affect, And, that's the thing. But the real issue here is that I only can interpret that as being a thing through the lens of what I see on social media. And social media is a charade, if you really think about it. It's based off algorithms. It's based off of engagement. That's how social media works. So social media doesn't present you a reality based off of what is real. It presents you a reality based off of a lens of this is going to get the most engagement. This is going to get the people the most riled up. So this is what you're going to see on a day-to-day basis. You don't see content from the everyday individual. You see content that has kind of been formulated in a way that allows it to be pushed to a mass audience because it convinces people subconsciously to share, to engage, and that further just pushes it out there. So everything that we see on the internet is not real in reality.
Right? But if I told Democrats, I want you to focus only on Muslim rights, that'd be mental. Don't do that. I'm not saying don't care about Muslim rights. I want you to care about that. I want everyone to have 100% same rights.
What I'm saying is why
build credibility by actually delivering for all of the American people. We raised all of your wages. We brought down drug prices for everyone, for Republicans and Democrats.
But by your logic, that could undermine certain things like, going back in history for a second here, the civil rights movement, things like that, which were inherently social and economic issues in combination. Why not? My question is, why not work with both of those issues side by side? Why are you deliberately attempting to prioritize one over the other?
No, so what I'm saying to you, brother, is two things. Number one, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. So you don't have to give up Muslim rights, you don't have to give up civil rights, you don't have to stop worrying about that, etc. You can fight on that, but don't forget, you're not supposed to hate the other side. They want you to hate the other side. Stop hating the other side. Fight on the issues you don't agree on.
Okay, yeah, obviously, I agree with him. You shouldn't hate the other side, but that's not what your argument is. Okay, no, actually it is. I'm reading it, yeah, it does tie in. My bad.
And then on the things you do agree on, stop listening to establishment Republicans and establishment Democrats that divide you so that you never realize, hey, why are most of the tax cuts going to the rich? Why are corporations getting every break? Why is it that in every bill, all the subsidies go to oil companies, banks, etc.?
Well, that's largely due to
so
the
why
fact.
don't we unite on the things we agree on first?
But by your own logic, that does a disservice to the fact that it doesn't do a disservice. It acknowledges the fact that as you still vote Democrat, you are still in essence supporting the very system that you're at the same time talking about tearing down. So it's a lot of double talk, is it not?
No, what I do
You
is
can't vote Democrat and then say that, well, because they still support the rich and the rich still get all the tax cuts, I'm still going to cast my vote, which is the most powerful political weapon you have, to the very establishment that you're on one hand trying to tear down.
That's why primaries are critical. If I want one thing for you guys all to think about is, you must vote in your primaries, because the mainstream media doesn't want you voting in the primaries, because that's where you can make real change. So that's why they love it when you go, oh, well, if you don't vote for a Democrat, Trump's going to be in office and Trump's the boogeyman, and the Republicans will say likewise, right? So go vote in your primaries so you don't have to worry about Democrats or Republicans. You're still in the same party. But get rid of the bums who are for corporate donors, who always serve donors, and get people that you love on both economic issues and social issues. You don't have to give up one, but you have to insist on them representing you and not the donor class.
Yeah, I agree with him there. Primaries are very important, but it's just like overall, I think his argument is better. That social issues do affect everyone, and because of that, like they are important issues. Can you focus on both? I'm not sure that that's how it works. I think that most elections, the winner is determined by who represents the most popular issue at the time and who represents it better, essentially. Because at the end of the day, there's no perfect systems, right? All democracy is how, if you look at it from the perspective of somebody in power, right? Their goal is to get in power, and the only way they can do that is by getting at least 51% of the country to agree that they're the right person for the job. So they do that by focusing on the pain points of the majority and presenting a solution to their pain points. So, and when you analyze it from that perspective, it's like it is a bit of a game in itself, but that's just the nature of power right now, you know? So how do we come together and determine what issues are going to be the most impactful in a much better way, I guess, you know, in a much less narrative driven way? Because I think that's the issue with modern media, is everything is so narrative driven, but it's not driven based off of the individual narrative. It's based off of a grand narrative. So let's continue.
Very great conversation, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Conversation.
Hello.
Hey.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I'm not going to disagree with you that in every case, Democrats don't go after the most radical economic policy. One example that
Not radical, they all poll over 70%.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I'm a Democrat myself. I agree with a lot of what you say. One example of what you said before is that Joe Biden wanted to cut the corporate or raise the corporate income tax to 28% instead of back to 35%. However, I think that one point to consider would be the fact that a lot of the times Democrats are having to clean up the mess that Republicans made. And when someone like Joe Biden only has 2 years of adequate Senate support, right, it's very difficult to argue that he should be
pursuing farther left tactics when we're just trying to get a reconciliation bill passed that can be supported by Joe Manchin, right? The economy was completely destroyed in 2020 after COVID. It was completely destroyed in 2007 after Obama. So there has to be a little give there.
So on economic issues, what I'm telling you, brother, is that they're playing good cop, bad cop. On you, on all of us, okay? So the tax cuts is a perfect example. So you're right, Donald Trump takes it from 35 to 21. It's a massive corporate tax cut. That's on Trump, that's on the Republicans. Then Joe Biden says, well, I'm going to fight that, and he gets a lot of votes to go fight that. And he says, I'm going to bring it back up to 28%. I'm like, wait, it was at 35. So already he's conceding, yeah, I love corporate tax, corporate tax cuts. Yeah. Hold on. Then he says, oh, well, Joe Manchin wants to make it 25. So golly gee, I don't have a choice, 25. Then did he fight for 25? No, he never introduced it. Never fought for 25. So you tell me, Joe Biden had 4 years and kept it at 21% and never even tried.
Well, realistically, he had 2 years to get a bill passed. It's the truth. At the end of the day, right, if Joe Manchin sticks it somewhere and he says, well, okay, maybe I'll let you have an expansion of the child tax credit, for example, if you keep it at 21. We don't know all the backdoor negotiations that happened between Joe Biden and Joe Manchin. At the end of the day, right, you can't have everything you want, whether you're Joe Manchin or Joe Biden.
Did you ever consider that they don't mean it? The reason that Joe Biden never tried to raise corporate taxes is because he doesn't want corporate taxes to go up. It was all a trick. It was all a game played on all of us.
No, I don't buy
No, I know. There was nothing they could do. That's why they didn't even bother trying. They never bothered trying on any of this. And you keep insisting, well, good enough. I'll take my 5% change. Thank you, sir. May I have another, sir? So please, for God's sake, wake up and unite to actually get economic policies that we love. The whole country wants.
You can say
except those corrupt politicians.
In West Virginia, Kamala Harris lost by 30 points, okay? If you put someone that is to the left of Kamala Harris on any economic issue, they're going to lose by that same margin.
You're totally wrong. Do you know what percentage of Americans want to not cut taxes on the rich, but raise taxes on the rich?
Probably all of them when you ask it that way.
No. What do you mean? On television, they constantly say, oh, cutting taxes is popular. Raising taxes is very unpopular. That's not true. Raising taxes on the rich polls at 76%. You would win West Virginia. You would win Kentucky.
I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know if those numbers are true, but they sound accurate. Yeah, they sound accurate. 70% sounds accurate. Definitely sounds accurate. I just don't. I don't know. I mean, I agree. Taxing the rich. The issue is that the rich evade so many taxes, and it's like if you raise taxes, they're still gonna evade them. Just stop them from being able to evade the taxes. That's what you do. Imagine how much tax money we have not, that has not been put back into the economy because of how much money the rich have evaded. Let's say you tax them at 90%, but they evade 88% of taxes. Raising the taxes doesn't accomplish anything.
If you ran on populist campaign, if you said, yes, I'm going to raise taxes on the rich, yes, I'm going to give you lower drug prices, yes, I'm going to give you higher wages, but the Democrats don't say that. They say, oh, I'm going to try a little bit, and then I'm not even going to introduce any of those bills. I don't think the lens that you're seeing it through is the lens that a lot of voters see it through when they're going to vote for people like Joe Manchin, people that will give us a Senate majority. All right, thank you.
Surrounded is now a podcast, available wherever you listen.
Not a mission. My next claim is Democrats don't want to pass their agenda. It's a marketing ploy, not a mission.
That's the same argument, bro. Except you're just putting it on the Democrats. And, bro, I thought you were a Democrat. Now you're a rebellion? I guess maybe he's been like that. I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to Cenk that much. But I don't know what he is anymore. I guess he's a Democrat, but he's an angry Democrat. I don't know.
Hi, Zena, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Zena.
Awesome. So I think that we largely agree, like kind of others have said. I just like want a little clarity on understanding how Democrats like water down their social issues, things like DEI and other measures to kind of bridge the gap that we've seen in like racial disparity, for example. How, in your worldview, do we reconcile such issues?
So in the beginning, did we need affirmative action? Definitely, because what happened before the civil rights movement was, so let's say that your firefighters or your longshoremen, those are really good jobs. They pay pretty well. They're good blue collar jobs. What do you want to do? You want to pass it on to your kids because you're normal, right? That's the type of thing that you want to do. But unfortunately, at that point, almost all the jobs are held by white people. So we do affirmative action because, guys, we got to let others in. Otherwise, it's not fair, right? And so that makes sense. But then over the course of decade after decade after decade, we wind up with DEI. And DEI has some good things in it, but it also has some abuses in it. We covered on the Young Turks, there'd be situations where a white woman would say, okay, now can I tell you my perspective? And they would say, no, shut up, your job is to learn. No, don't do that, okay?
So are you talking about like fringe cases in which like someone would say that they feel unfairly treated by DI? Because I think in any type of law that we're going to see passed, we're going to see fringe cases in which the law is I guess manipulated in some case to negatively affect certain groups. So I think that we see like largely the effect on the Black population is extremely substantial and extremely important. For example, we see that like I think there's a study done, I don't remember if it was 2015 or 2002, but it was a study done where they simulated a class-based DEI program instead of race. What we found was equally qualified Black individuals were much less likely to be chosen on this class-based protocol, and we saw that like the protocol actually represented a lot less of the Black population that exists in this country, whereas DEI ensures that we have a representative pool of applicants and admitted students in our colleges, which is extremely important.
So look, again, DEI and affirmative action had their role, had their place, and oftentimes
I'm saying that they have a role now.
So, but what it also does at the same time, though, is serves to divide us. And so, look, if you say to me, hey, maybe Muslims have a disadvantage, even if you take class into account. So should we give a little bit of extra weight to Muslim candidates? I would say absolutely not.
Why not?
Do not do that. Because then what it does is it makes everyone bitter about the Muslim candidates.
Here's the problem.
And it makes them seem like they didn't earn it, when in fact they did earn it.
So what you're explaining is the response.
Damn. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, Cenk be spitting. No, he be spitting. Now the thing about it is, yes, that is kind of a personal thing, you know. But the reality is that human psychology is a real thing. Envy is a real thing, and it can cause issues. Though when you do have a proportionate when there are certain classes of people that are at a disadvantage, and that represents a vast amount of the population, hence why the issue gains so much traction, because the engagement there is based off of the reality that a lot of people do suffer this issue. In this case, I would say that I agree with her that these programs may have negative effects, right? There may be some fallback from enforcing these programs, but these programs are essential to serving the underprivileged, which is the American dream, essentially, or right, I believe. Man, that's a deep one. That's definitely a deep one, though. That's definitely a deep one. You know, and I can see both sides of the issue too, because I understand that on the Republican side, or at least on the conservative side, it's like, you know, you should earn these positions by way of your work. That's how society should work, based off of the work you put in is the results you get, not based off of favor because of your, you know, whatever your situation is. Which I understand, because, but when the system, again, the system's not perfect, so because of its flaws, you have to have some sort of reconciliation for those flaws, and they don't always work. But I think Cenk's argument is that this is just a marketing ploy. It's not a mission. And I disagree. I think there is there is a real mission behind it, you know. I just don't think that it has, because the thing is, if it's just a marketing ploy, you are putting the economy at risk for the sake of some ploy to get in power. Why would you do that? So you're gonna, for the donors that you are basically getting the money from, you're gonna make this, you know, the system work, at least their businesses, less efficient because they're putting the wrong people in place. I disagree. Like, it doesn't make sense that would be the thing. I think it's a real issue. I think that because it doesn't affect him specifically, and anyone who's come to this country and has built their own thing, they're gonna have a level of pride and belief that anybody can do it. But the reality is not everybody has the same drive, has the same, you know, ability to do those things. So let's continue.
To the policy, and you're not actually digging at the policy in of itself. You're saying because people will come out and be, you know, racist or Islamophobic or whatever it might be because of a policy that is ensuring equality of opportunity, we should cancel the policy. But that is not a critique of the policy. That's a critique of the Republican or usually conservative response to said policy. So do you have a problem with the policy or the response?
So my point here is that this is among the different things that the Democrats do, where they say, hey, I think they're being performative. They say, oh, we're in favor of DEI. It might be performative, but the output what it is actually, what the thing that would help African-American community, Latino community, Muslim community, all those communities is actually raising the minimum wage, lowering drug prices, but we never do the material help. We never do the things that equal things out economically.
You still haven't critiqued the policy in of itself. You're saying people will get angry if we come out and we you know, promote these different metrics of helping people.
I am critiquing the policy.
So what exactly about the policy is
because
negative?
it divides us.
How does the policy divide?
Even though it has
by saying that racism exists?
Yeah. So
but
but not by saying that racism exists. So you have to acknowledge reality, right? What you're saying is now we're going to put black people in this category. We're going to put white people in this category.
Because there are categories that exist now at a subconscious level that we characterize.
So even if you get a benefit from that, you say, hey, you know, I reduced racism by 10%, 20%, etc. What you're doing is you're not noticing the giant downside of that, which is then people start to view each other as black, white,
We've
Asian,
always done that. That's happening unconsciously all the time.
You're right, but what I would love is for us to stop doing that.
All of our psychology.
Stop looking at me as a Muslim and you as a black person. I want them to look at you as an American and me as an American.
If you want less racism and less racial categorizing, or just us to see it as less of an initial categorization, studies show that we need to attack racism and race as a concept like head on. We cannot ignore them or you know, input race neutral policy into place. What we find is that characterizing race, saying what it is, saying what racism is, and thus, you know, confronting ourselves with our biases is what limits them. So no, we can't say, oh, you know, let's stop dividing people with the corrective policy. The corrective policy is helping something that has always existed, that's happening all the time.
So I told you I have an issue with the policy itself. I think it divides us.
You haven't explained it, though.
And do the Democrats actually pass their agenda? Even if they agreed with you, did they pass Voting Rights Act? They did not.
The problem is capitulating to right framework, which I think was what you're doing here when you said the response to DEI is going to be negative. The thing is, when we... All right.
She talks really fast, but I like her. I like her passion in the subject. I think she has a good argument. I think she does, and I agree with her more on this point because it's a complex issue. You know, it's a complex issue that affects certain groups more than others, for sure. But it is important to address it, and there's no easy solution. Cenk saying that, hey, if we just ignore all of that and, you know, kind of go back in time to how things were in the past, like, did it work before? If it did, then why did these things become created? Why do they exist now, you know? So, but it's like everything is all narrative driven, because I know on the right side, the argument is, oh, well, these programs cause this issue, destabilization, the dismantling of families is the argument on the right. This is what a lot of these programs have caused, which I can see the connection there. I definitely can. I don't know that you can exactly for a fact say one thing caused another. Me personally, I would go more on the cultural angle of things and say culture is what kind of dictates our reality more so than the aspect of DEI and these programs that honestly are not affecting the mass majority of companies. I mean, companies find ways to evade the law every single day. Taxes, DEI programs, everything. It doesn't stop anything. There's still going to be people that find a way to cheat the system, and everything still works, you know? I will say a lot of the outrage is manufactured based on engagement because, you know, views and clicks and likes are money nowadays. And because of that, most narratives are going to be based off of what's going to drive the most engagement. So the issues are over sensationalized on both sides, in my opinion. I think that this whole, what he's doing right now is arguing a point rather than really taking in, like is really arguing the same point, which he is convinced is the truth, but everybody around him is not. So let's get back into it.
All right, thank you.
Hey, good to meet you. So, Democrats don't want to pass their agenda. I would say they want to pass their agenda. It's just, if you ask 50 Democrats what their agenda is, you get 60 different answers. We've got the environmentalists who hate the labor people hate the environmentalists, we have the gay rights lobby, we have racial justice people, we have all different people, immigration activists, like everybody thinks that their issue is the most important one. And I know you don't acknowledge that usually at the beginning of an administration, there's the maximum political capital, and if they don't get something in that time, then they weren't really trying. But what has happened in the past, we saw Biden pass a number of bills in those first 2 years, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law, the American Rescue Plan. Obama passed the Affordable Care Act. We've passed all kinds of things, but we also all disagree on what the hell the Democrats should do, and that leads to the point where somebody is always frustrated in our coalition because we are not just a big tent, we're a 3-ring circus ring. Like, we have such a big tent that's collapsing in on itself. Yeah. So this idea that we don't want to pass an agenda, the last point I'll make, because I'm taking up a lot of time, I would just look at the places where Democrats have all the power, like here in California. California, when you were growing up, I was growing up, I'm actually an 80-year-old man, that's why I got my Mr. Rogers sweater. It was smog here in LA. Like, you couldn't see 50 feet in front of your house. We created not just the most powerful environmental regulator in this country, CARB is the most powerful environmental regulator in the world, and that was Democrats that did that. So this idea that when Democrats have power, they don't actually know what to do with it is bogus. We've seen it here in California. We've seen it in New York with free college. We've seen it in many states. So I just don't agree that we don't actually want to do anything.
Okay, so.
And this is why I agree that more with the argument, the people arguing against Cenk, is because I think that narratives are so powerful in this generation that we just believe everything that we hear on the internet, right? So if you just think about the fact this guy's a California citizen, right? I've never been to California. The only thing I know about California is the shit I hear on the internet, and most of the shit I hear on the internet about California is bad because I am not in tune with the positive shit that goes on in California. Excuse my language. But if you get what I'm saying, my perspective is based off of what is presented to me. So sure, California has its flaws. So does every other state. So does every country. But these issues are important to the individuals, which is why they are so popular. That's my opinion. I've been doing a lot of talking.
So you mentioned about a dozen things there. Let me take two of them as an example. So the CHIPS Act that you mentioned, right? The Democrats told us when we were covering it live on the Young Turks, oh, this is such a monumental bill. It's so important. And I was like, okay, nobody's going to vote based on that. So put that aside because that was definitely true, but okay, not pertinent to whether they were trying to do something that the Democratic voters wanted. So that they said that was for national security. Okay, there's some truth to that, right? And they said it was, don't worry, this is to create more jobs. So now, what did they do? Very typical Democratic bill. They passed over $50 billion in corporate subsidies. The number one recipient was Intel, $8.5 billion in grants and $11 billion in loans. So about $20 billion overall. I said, for God's sake, at least put it in guardrails so they can't fire people. They said, oh, don't worry, Intel's going to create 10,000 jobs. You know what they did? They didn't put in the guardrails. And right afterwards, Intel fired 20,000 people.
That's just weird.
And it seems like he's substantiating his argument by pulling specific situations into frame that kind of comprise his narrative that it's a marketing ploy and these issues the Democrats don't really care about, which again makes me just question, like, what are you, like, what are you? Like, what is your affiliation? What is your real beliefs? Because if you just believe that the whole system is corrupt and that everybody in power is unified in their order for the United States, then you're basically saying what? You know what I mean?
To mention guardrails against firing people when you rejected a union at your company and fired somebody for organizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true. You could say that if you like.
That is true. Look it up. There's a union now, but
yeah, you could look it up to a bunch of liars. But this is a random thing that you're throwing in there, I guess, to just personally attack me. But there is a union. I'll tell you facts. Do you want to explain facts? So facts are, yes, IATSE is at Young Turks. It's been at Young Turks for over 5 years.
Did you or did you not reject a card check?
Yeah, I did. And so, in fact, card check, yes, that is the one thing I disagree with in the PRO Act. And yes, you are allowed to disagree with one part of the bill or 5% of a bill, right? And so in our case,
so
what
we can compromise and have
my personal dealings at Young Turks, okay, fine, we can do it.
It's not personal, it's a public thing.
No, okay, no problem. Okay, but let me address it. Now you got into
he is sweating. He's sweating, bro. He's sweating. He wasn't expecting. Yo, he was not expecting that, bro. He's nervous. I don't know nothing about this, but this is just a funny situation we put in.
Weirdo thing that not about policy, not about the Democrats, but about my company. Fine. So since you smeared me, let's explain. So that people come in and go, okay, surprise, we didn't ask you for anything, but we formed a union. I go, guys, great, prove it. They say, oh, we had a secret vote. And then people come up to me, other employees.
That's what a card check is.
Other employees come up to me and go, they're intimidating us. We didn't ask.
We're getting way off base here.
I know, because you brought us off base with a random attack
because
against
you brought
me.
up guardrails. Let me just say one final thing.
Let me finish, because you're not going to smear me and not let me explain, okay? So then I said, since people felt intimidated, it's okay.
You felt intimidated.
No. How do you? You're not even. You weren't there. You're just making stuff up.
Because you're the one that fought it.
So hold on.
You're the one that went to the NLRB and had to.
What the hell is this?
You don't want to shift the answer. You just want to filibuster.
Okay, let me answer. So then I said, for God's sake, just do a vote. No problem. You get a union the very next day. They did a vote and they passed, and they got a union immediately. Immediately, as soon as I was sure that all of our employees were not being intimidated or bullied, they instantly got a union, and we've had a union for 5 years. There's people who are like
in response to public pressure, but okay.
There are people who are making stuff up 24/7, and they keep telling people like you that we rejected a union when we didn't. We authorized it immediately as soon as we had a fair vote. Okay, now back to what you thought was. I thought.
It's funny. He's so passionate about an issue. Look at his face. You know he's fucking caught off guard, bro. He was not ready for that comment, bro. They had to call in the red flags. They had to get him out of here. They had to get him out. But nah, bro, that's crazy. Because I forgot what I was going to say. His face got me, man. His face got me. But yeah.
thought we were arguing about.
Good talking.
Not really, but okay.
Yeah, that's the thumbnail right there.
Hey, Cenk.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I have a lot of respect for you, but I worry about your progressive populism is dangerous. In fact, to me, you kind of sound like a political pickup artist. Like, just do this one trick and we can fix it all. And to me, it's no different than what MAGA is doing with their faux populism, with the deep state, with undocumented immigrants. Someone to blame. You're just giving people corporate, corrupt Democrats or corporate media as an excuse. And I think you're just taking advantage of disaffected people and not showing them we got to get more involved. We got to invest more. We got to try harder and get good people in there.
So you're saying that don't even try progressive populism, just go along with the establishment Democrats because they know how to win. That's why they beat Donald Trump twice. Oh, right. They lost to Trump twice. They don't know anything. Their number one thing was, we know how to win. They were liars. They didn't know how to win at all. They got clowned by a guy who's not that bright. Now, number two, we have this giant agenda, $15 minimum wage, all the things that we've talked about throughout the day. Oh, golly gee, we just couldn't pass any of it. Oh, wow, okay. But hey, vote for an establishment Democrat. Don't get tricked by left-wing populism. Brother, do we actually ever try left-wing populism?
Yes.
Here's the three things we've tried. We've tried establishment Democrats, complete failures. We've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. We tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failure.
I disagree.
So the only thing we haven't tried is left-wing populism. You say, don't try it. Go back to the establishment Democrats. Go back to the donor class. Are you crazy? Let's try the one thing we didn't try. The Bernie Sanders wing, economic populism.
You say the American Rescue Plan that took half the kids in poverty out of it, millions of kids who go to bed hungry, is crumbs, is doing nothing? That is a big deal. What about the millions of people who have health insurance now because of the Affordable Care Act
Romneycare?
subsidies? No, you can call whatever you want, but the reality is millions of people have health insurance today because of what the Democrats did when they controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House in 2022 on the Inflation Reduction Act and the American Rescue Plan. I can't stand that you call it crumbs. People don't want their whole lives given to them. They just want a little breathing room like our big President Biden used to say.
So you say you're super happy with the 5 to 10% that the Democrats gave you.
It's not
But
5 to 10%.
There's two things here. Number one, I don't know what economic class you're in, but the average American is not happy with 5 to 10% change. They want giant change. They want the actual, by the way, the Democratic agenda is great. Our populist plank, the 6 most popular bills in the Democratic agenda, are super popular with independents and even with Republicans. But they never, ever do the most popular bills because they're economic bills. And you say that's good enough. But then why not try the entire agenda? Why not go with an economic populist like Bernie Sanders or Ro Khanna that's going to give you the whole agenda and actually try? Why give up ahead of time?
Those are great plans, and we should strive for them. But this is a giant country. We're the 3rd largest country in the world. We have a complicated democracy. We have to do things slowly. I know you don't like that. I know you want to get there, boom, boom, boom. But people do not want to abandon what they're used to.
Which is true. This is the truth. It's the reality of the world. I agree with everything this young man right here is saying. He is spot on. I mean, it's a vast country, and these issues they're important to a lot of people. They just simply are. You can't just solve them all in one day. I mean, the issue is he's saying, okay, let's try the one thing we haven't tried, right? Which is I know he didn't say economic socialism, but he said economic something else. More on Bernie Sanders angle, which is basically to tax the rich and give to the poor, essentially, from my understanding, right? How many times do I have to say they're just going to evade? They're going to find the loopholes. It's not going to work. It's not that simple. Say they pass one of these bills, and now because of the sudden shift in the status quo, they can't expect the fallback. You see, the thing about doing what you've consistently done is you know what you're going to get as a result of it. You can kind of measure the results of that action. Something that has not been done before, you don't know what the results are going to be of that.
Sounds great on paper. Would you like single-payer healthcare where you save trillions of dollars and you pay less? Of course. But then when you show people how we get there, they're scared, they're nervous, and they have a right-wing media machine on overload that is scaring the hell out of people. That's what we're up against. This is reality, man. Welcome to it.
So Martin Luther King called this the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. So they tell you, don't worry, we'll do that tiny bit, and then when you elect us again, we'll do another tiny bit, and 200 years later, this will get done.
Millions of kids
let me
not going to bed hungry is a tiny bit, Jane.
Let me explain
Really?
the context of healthcare. They say we're for universal healthcare. You go, okay, great, let's do Medicare for all. Oh, no, wait too long. Okay, no problem. Can we do public option? This debate goes all the way back to the Affordable Care Act. They go, oh, yeah, sure, we love the public option. Oh, golly, gee, we had to take the public option out. There was nothing we could do. Okay, Obama says he had to take it out because the drug companies were opposed to it. First of all, you're admitting that you're giving into the donor class. Then Joe Biden comes in and goes, how can we do public option?
We had 50-50 split Senate with guys like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema.
You know how you do it, brother? You know how you do it by trying.
Yeah, they try.
They
try every day.
No, but literally,
you're not on the inside.
No,
you don't know.
You're stating a misstatement. Okay, so Joe Biden never introduced the public option. If you never introduced the public option, by definition, you did not try. Second of all, how do you pass it? Oh, the Senate is split. Okay, you put pressure on. So can pressure work politically? Well, we know because Donald Trump did it to Republicans. Now he did it for his own cause and for his own self-aggrandizement. But anytime a Republican crossed him in the first term, he said, we're going to eliminate Joe Wilson in South Carolina, and boom, he was eliminated. Now imagine if you did that.
You want to bully our senators?
Yes, I do.
That's what you want to do? You want to threaten their lives? What do you want to do to them?
So can I explain?
They represent their people.
No,
Joe
they
Manchin
don't.
represents his people. They sent him there. How do you know that?
Okay.
You're not from West Virginia.
Okay, hold on. They represent their donors.
So BS.
Okay.
It's an excuse.
Oh yeah,
it's
I know.
an excuse.
The donors
It's a
are
boogeyman.
It's a non-existent.
More
billions
people,
of dollars given to Joe
more
Manchin. He
people
doesn't care about
donated to
that.
Kamala than
You know
outside
that
groups
Joe-
in this election
you know-
cycle. It's a boogeyman, and you're wasting people's time with it.
Nonsense.
Yes.
You know that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, after they voted against minimum wage increase, went to the National Restaurant Association and collected checks. They literally work for their donors. It is super literal. And what you're saying to people is ignore it.
No,
ignore
it's
the donors.
disrespectful
Ignore
to
them.
everybody who sends money
It's
to those
disrespectful
guys.
to Joe Manchin, and I
That's
intend to disrespect Joe
that's
Manchin.
disrespectful
I
to
despise
every
Joe Manchin. I despise those
But you're
corporate
not from West
Democrats
Virginia.
who never ever deliver for you.
You're not
Who
from
never
West
even try to
Virginia.
deliver for you. You know,
We're
here's
lucky
what
to
you
have
say.
Joe Manchin.
Here's what you say. Hey.
Hey. So your claim is that Democrats don't want to pass their agenda. You've talked about $15 an hour minimum wage. So how can you explain then that Joe Biden did in fact increase to $15 an hour for federal contractors with an increase again this year to $17.75?
Yeah. So again, it's a release valve. So why?
How is
Hold
that a
on.
release valve?
Yes, because it affects a tiny percentage
It
of
affects
Americans.
300,000 people.
300,000 out of 330 million people. So that's why if you actually did federal minimum wage, moved it to $15, that would move $92 billion from corporations to the average American. Okay, so that's what we want. I assume you want it. I want it. All Democrats want it. It polls at around 67%. So what I'm saying to all of you guys is, please expect better of your politicians. So when they give you a 3%, oh, hey, look, I did it for 300,000 people. Hey, look, the drug prices, I lowered it on 10 drugs out of 10,000 drugs. Don't say that's good enough.
But
They're
James,
shielding.
you just said
That's a shield so that you don't question them when they say, oh, I'm not going to do it for everyone.
You just said that all Democrats want to raise it to $15 an hour. That has not been your claim this entire time.
No, voters.
Voters,
Yeah.
right. The Democratic politicians do too. If Joe
No, they don't.
Biden didn't want to do it, why did he increase it?
But
For
wait a minute.
federal contractors,
So then-
he didn't have the votes to pass it.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. So what he does is he does it for 5% of people with student debt relief. He did it for 10% of people. He didn't do it for 90%. So in the case
why
of the
do
federal
anything
minimum
at
wage,
all?
let me bring it back to you. Federal minimum wage. So he says, oh, progressives, don't worry. It's bare minimum. We're definitely going to do it. So they pass it in the House. They bring it to the Senate. Joe Biden does an interview during the Super Bowl right after he's elected, and he says, oh, we're taking $15 minimum wage out of the bill. The Republicans didn't take it out of the bill. Joe Biden took it out of the bill.
Trump did get rid of it on executive order.
Okay,
so now they don't have it at all.
Right.
So you're saying then you're saying that Democrats and Republicans are both equal in terms of economics, right? How is that equal in terms of economics when Joe Biden raised it and then Trump took it away by executive order?
But wait a minute. But you're saying that even though he took it out, and then when Bernie put it back in, 8 Democratic senators, including the 2 Delaware senators that are the closest allies of Biden, voted against federal minimum wage being increased to $15. $15. So can you not see that they're literally voting against it? They're literally taking it out of the bill. They're literally tricking you. They don't actually want to pass it. They get your vote by saying, oh, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And then the minute they get in office, they're like, I was just kidding, take it out of the bill.
What evidence do you have that Joe Biden actually did want those senators to vote against it? What evidence?
Two pieces of evidence. Number one, it passed in the House, and I even talked to Democratic congressmen. They assured me, don't worry, it's going to pass in the Senate. It goes to the Senate, and it's out of the bill. Schumer made that decision in conjunction with Joe Biden. So why did Schumer and Biden take it out of the bill? That's my evidence.
So, Cenk, is your claim then that
And then secondly, by the way, when they did vote on it, his two biggest allies, both the Delaware senators, voted against the $15 minimum wage. That's overwhelming evidence. Do you think that they didn't ask Joe Biden? No, they called Joe Biden, and Joe Biden said vote against it because he was lying.
That's not, it's just not true. But also,
that is literally true, and anybody can look it up.
Are you claiming then that all Democrats that take corporate money are against the people? Is that your claim?
Absolutely,
okay,
yes.
So then why did TYT take $20 million of corporate
money? Here we go again with personal
attacks. Well, it's not,
okay,
it's
no
not
problem.
Personal,
no problem. I want to answer it. No problem.
Okay,
yeah. So $20 million is an investment.
Okay.
It is not here, take the money you do, and then you do what we tell you to do. Everyone has, if you're building a business, you have to take investment to get to the next level.
Cenk,
if you don't take the investment, you're going to be tiny. So what some leftists say is, no, don't ever build anything. Don't ever take an investment. Don't ever do anything and build a big business. So instead, let the right wing take not only investment money, but direct money like Dennis Prager did, $23 million, and then take it from the fracking billionaires, all those guys, and serve those guys. Let the right wing grow and grow and grow. But as soon as there's a successful left wing channel, don't take an investment, don't take any money, just be super small so we can't compete with the right wing.
Cenk,
how does that make sense?
I'm pro you taking that investment. I've built a business. I understand that. I just think that it's ironic for you then to sit up here and say that everybody that takes corporate money is against the people, because then you would be against the people.
No, that doesn't make that's apples and oranges.
Why is it apples and oranges?
I can explain perfectly. So should corporations be allowed to exist? Absolutely.
Okay.
Should corporations be allowed to give money to our politicians so they control our government? Absolutely not. No way. So when a corporation does an investment, that's a perfectly logical and normal thing to do. When a corporation buys a politician and those politicians then vote with them, that is a terrible thing to do. I'm a capitalist. I believe in capitalism, but I believe in democratic capitalism where democracy checks capitalism. Otherwise, it becomes corporatism and becomes a monster. But I don't want to defeat all the companies, and I certainly don't want to defeat left-wing media companies. That makes no sense at all. You see how it's apples and oranges? One is a company and the other one's a politician.
Okay.
One is normal business, the other one is to influence our government.
Let's talk about...
Oh, golly.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to...
I'm not gonna lie, that was getting good, man. I was listening to that. It's hard to really, that one, man, that was hard to really come to a decision on. I agree with both of them, actually. I don't know the specifics. I am going to have to do my research on what he was saying about Joe Biden suppressing the $15 an hour minimum wage, in favor of his donors, which just doesn't sound like, it's just like, I mean, even $15 minimum wage is crazy, but I do also agree that, the $20 million investment, I don't know the details of that situation either. So I can't really speak too much on it. From his argument, from his defense made sense in the sense of, that $20 million was going to go to, ensuring that they didn't have to be essentially kind of slaves to whatever the corporations wanted them to make the narrative because of their investments. So it does make sense to have that as leverage, but I just think that it's tough because I agree with a lot of what Cenk is saying. I can see that there is, a lot of people in power on both sides that have the same agendas, but I do also agree that, hey, this particular bill might have only affected 300,000 people, but those 300,000 people obviously had the voice to make that change happen. A lot of these bigger social issues, these people are using their voice to push these issues. So even if a small group of people in America can come together and use their voice to push the issue, I think that is the American dream. I think that is okay. what Cenk is saying, hey, we should prioritize this. And that's the issue with his argument, is that his idea of what we should prioritize is not what everybody agrees to. Now he's saying, over 70% of people agree to these issues. I would have to say, I don't know. I think, if everybody could be doing financially better, people would potentially be happier. I don't know, people have been financially better in different times, and did it make them happier? I'm not sure. But financial issues are a big issue. When, there's always solutions, but they don't always reap the best results. So